to do the foraging habitat overlay suitability analysis, we need the lakes and rivers and the Dane Land Use 2005, and I have those loaded in here. I just want to show that I have the spreadsheet open here on the side, so that way I can look at my criteria that I'm using and it's there for easy reference. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to turn off the Dane Land Use, so that way we have the screen doesn't take forever to regenerate as we work on the lakes and rivers first. Now I'm just going to zoom to layers so I can see the full county, and that's the only reason I have the Dane County boundary in here, so I can do that zoom to layer, make sure everything's on the screen, and I can focus entirely on what I'm doing throughout the county. So if we remember from our spreadsheet and our flow chart, the lakes and rivers, we need to do a buffer. Now we have done buffers and we have done them from the geoprocessing buffer at the top. However, we want to do a very special buffer, and so you could go down to Arc Toolbox to get it here, or you can use this icon at the top that is a little toolbox. So we're going to open Arc Toolbox. And while that's opening, I want to also point out we want to go up to, make sure we go up to Customize and go to Extensions. And we need to make sure that we have our Spatial Analyst and 3D Analyst extensions turned on. And we can close that. And so we can get access to some other tools in here. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to open up the analysis tools. We can go to the proximity, and then in here, this is another way to get to a regular buffer, but if you look down here, we have this script called multiple ring buffer in the toolbox. I'm going to double click on that, and then we have an input feature, which is going to be our lakes and rivers. We're going to save this out, and typically I call it something like whatever the original layer is. So I go lakes and rivers, and then I have something like M for multiple and then buffer, so it's a multiple ring buffer, and I'm just going to save. And then here's where we type in our distances. Now, if I flip over the spreadsheet, it has them listed here under the attributes for accommodating extra small pollinators. We need about 492 feet, 820 feet, 984 feet, and 1669 feet. So we're just going to type those in here. So we're going to do 492. And then you click this little plus symbol, so it adds it down here. And then we'll do 820, plus symbol. We're going to 984 plus symbol, and then 1969 plus symbol. And then we're going to go on down to do buffer unit. The default will go and look at your layer and say, oh, you are in feet, or your projections in meters, or your projection units are in miles. But if you're not exactly sure you've set that correctly, or you got a layer from someone and with no metadata, I just go ahead and do a unit just in case, so that way no matter what units are set for your project, no matter what units are set for your layer, it's fixed. And then I don't use the field name distance because you could measure other distances and put in there, so it's not very descriptive for me. So I do M buffer dist. And now that I think about it, that's probably too many characters, so I'm going to go back and call it M buff dist, so that way I know it's my multiple buffer distance. And just as we have done before, we want to dissolve all. And so that where 492 overlaps 492, it's just one dissolved shape. And then if you look here, outside polygons, description here is unchecked buffers will overlap or cover the input features. This is the default. Checked buffers will be rings around the input features. So what I want to do is I want to, in this rare case, keep that checked, because we don't want to necessarily put pollinator habitat in the water, although there are some plants that flower and grow up through water, but we want to really highlight the areas that start at the edges and move outward. And so we're going to check that box, and then we're going to click OK. Now this will take a little bit of time to run, although it should not take 10 or 20 minutes. It should only take several minutes, maybe 5, 10 at most. And then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to show you the results. So here are our results. Now, one thing we can look at is we can see the buffers, we can see the lakes through the buffers, so everything worked quite well. And in this case, that concludes this video, and we'll be back in the next video to continue the lakes and rivers part of our foraging habitat. Thanks.